Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. I am Ron Luce. I am joined by the great Rich Eberwine, which if you listened on Tuesday night, you got to hear Rich's solo debut. And I am joined by Nick. Holy shit, you're back. It's good to see you, my friend. Gentlemen, baseball completely aside, because we're going to save the rest of our time on these airways for that. How you boys doing? Happy Thursday. The weekend starts on Thursdays. Nick, how was your trip?
It was very nice, very relaxing, great weather in Florida. Happy to be back. Sad to be back talking about a terrible deadline, but nonetheless.
As Darren says, and then depression set in.
Yeah. Yes.
We're going to get into that one here. Rich, you and I had this. This is exactly how we opened our pre-show get together here. How are you doing outside of everything baseball related?
I gotta say, I'm a lot worse than I was during the Tuesday show. I was very optimistic. I was having a good week,
Yeah.
And now it's turned to ash in my mouth, and I'm very sad now. Yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed. I'm very disappointed in our boy Jed, but outside of baseball, I'm good. I'm fine. But baseball is crippling my mental health right now. So let's break it down.
Crippling indeed. Man. Yeah, it's tough. It's 100% tough. Gentlemen, before we get going, we heard from one of our comments here. Sonny says, not mad, just disappointed. And Scott says,
I'm mad.
No. We're gonna get into the mad here. Scott says today was like going to a carnival and collecting thousands of tickets and finding out when you get to the counter to get your prize, you only have enough to get a whistle.
Agreed.
That's an incredible analogy.
Awesome.
Maxwell has a fair question here. He asks, "Where's Mitch? Where's Mr. Nims?" For those that are asking, that's the Dingers podcast, one of two shows here on the On Tap Sportsnet Cubs coverage. We are Cubs on Tap. You can find those boys live every Monday, so that's where you can find them, Maxwell. But we're happy you're able to join us here tonight and chat with us. And our boy, Mr. Joey Ricotta, very upset. Sorry, couldn't join, boys. Festa set up a little bit ago. Joey's ever Italian heritage getting in the way of him talking Cubs baseball. It's okay, brother. We love you.
Be like that sometimes.
All right, let's say the one good thing that happened prior to this show from our last show. The Cubs won a baseball game. Good bounce back on Wednesday. That was a good soul cleanser. Stay one back of the Brewers. And then we could turn our attention to the shit show and cluster fire. And I don't know what's a bigger dumpster fire, the Cubs not getting a starting pitcher or the wildfires that have made Chicago like unbreathable right now up in Canada. Gentlemen, let loose.
Bad.
Let loose. So quick synopsis to set the mood, right? Cubs make a couple different moves. They go get Michael Soroka. That's the first trade on Wednesday night. It's been starting for the Nationals, but it kind of sounds like the vibe is he's going to the pen kind of to be a long guy is what the feeling is right now. Then they go out and they get Kittredge. And I thought Kittredge was a nice signing. A guy I kind of was eyeballing a little bit for them in the offseason. Wasn't totally mad about Kittredge as another addition. Again, they give up some middle-of-the-pack top 30 guys, so be it. Those guys are just as big a lottery chips as anybody else. And then today comes. And move after move after move after move is happening on Thursday. The Cubs are not included in it. As you joked, Rich, every trade that came in, holy cow, it's not the Cubs. And that's what it felt like. But then they finally pulled the trigger on Willie Castro, the utility man from the Minnesota Twins. Going back, the Cubs' number 8 prospect and then an unranked prospect. And then finally the Rogers move. Ivan Brethro, who's a huge, I think he's 6'8" or 6'9", just slugger. Corner outfielder. I think he was their 6th round pick in 2024. He goes to the Pirates for the lefty Rogers, which feels, again, like a good get. But that was it. That was all the Cubs did, and that sets the tone for where we're all here and feeling now, because the feeling of disappointment is very abundant. Very. And guys, I think Bobby Foster gave us maybe the analogy of the day. We got all the sides. Juice will appreciate this one too, with it being a food reference. We got all the sides, the fancy sides, like the breadcrumb baked mac and cheese and like the fancy Brussels sprouts and the whole nine, but we don't have the steak and the steak dinner. The number one need for the Cubs, a really good starting pitcher, not addressed. Boys, fire the cannons, let loose. What's on your mind?
I mean, if the Cubs had gotten a starting pitcher, even a rental starting pitcher, this deadline would look completely different, right?
Mhm.
You went into the deadline with a lot of boxes to check. You needed a bench bat, a bench upgrade. You got that with Willie Castro. You needed some relief help. You got that 3 times over with Soroka and Kittredge and whoever Rogers, third guy. And the biggest need, though, was a starting pitcher. You've arguably needed this since before the season even started. Before Justin Steele even got hurt, you needed another starting pitcher. And now more than ever, you need one, a frontline guy, preferably. And they just didn't do it. They didn't pull the trigger. And, Nick kind of said this earlier. It makes the Jed Hoyer extension kind of look bad now, because you're like, okay, are they just never going to be aggressive when you need to be? Are you just going to waste this 1 year of Kyle Tucker because the asking price was a little too rich for your blood? What are we doing? How often are the Cubs a top 5 offense consistently throughout the first 2/3 of the season, and we're just going to throw that away because we didn't want to give up 3 top 10 prospects for a starting pitcher? And then Jed Hoyer has the balls to come out afterwards and say, well, nobody else did either. That's not an excuse. You could have been the
No.
one team to make that splash and throw your dick on the table and say, we're competing for a World Series this year because
Yep.
we are good and we are the Chicago Cubs. And you just didn't do it because you didn't have the wherewithal to do it. And it's a fucking disappointment. It sucks.
Disappointment indeed. Go ahead, Nick.
100%. And sometimes you got to overpay. And this was the deadline to overpay. This was the time to do that. And it's just so frustrating that he wouldn't make a move like that. I was hoping that, towards the last hours, like even guys that weren't moved doesn't necessarily mean they weren't available. So you go and get Willie Castro. Why isn't Joe Ryan part of that deal? Why couldn't you make that happen? Why couldn't you get Adrian Hauser? There were other guys out there that you could have gotten without moving top 3 prospects, but you knew that you had to go get, even if it wasn't a top line starter, go get a serviceable starter out there. And he just didn't do it. And it was shocking to me. And even getting towards the end of the deadline, it just felt like he had to do something. And those last moves with the Taylor Rogers and the Willie Castro, they just felt like last gas efforts where he just was trying to do something to make people happy, trying to do something to get things going. And just was a pitiful deadline. Honestly, people weren't as mad as I was when we lost out on Suarez, but I was fucking pissed off. I'm like, are you serious? Like Rich said, put your dick on the table and go do it. This is the year to do it. You caught lightning in the bottle with a lot of these guys. You're doing a lot better than what anyone predicted you to be doing. And you decide to hold pat, basically. You did fill some holes. You didn't do what the Brewers did, which was, arguably way worse. But at the same time, you're the freaking Chicago Cubs. You're a top market team, and you go and have that kind of a deadline where everyone in the national media is kind of laughing at us and looking at us like, why the hell didn't they do more? Because why didn't we do more? We were in such a good position to go and put all of our chips in the table and try to go win a World Series. And I was in Florida when the Jet extension happened, and I was pissed off when it happened because for me, this is the year to do something really special, and they basically paid him before he did the job, in my opinion. I know, he did really well bringing these guys, these different trades and whatever, but like This was a failure of a deadline in my eyes. This was a fail. You get an F from me, Jed, an F, big old F. If you went and you got a top line starter and maybe you did get a Mike Soroka or Kittredge and that was it, this would be a different story. We needed that top guy where you're like, whoa, they're going for it. They just simply didn't do it. So disappointment, disgust, all the D's.
Diabolical. We'll keep it going.
Diabolical.
I will
DFA,
say,
Jed.
you guys are certainly not alone. Funny that you said the DFA Jed. Okay, here in the comments, DFA Hoyer for Theo Epstein. But speaking of, I do want to share some of what's happening in the chat because I do find it a wee bit fascinating here right now. Joey says here sometimes you have to overpay if you know if it's not good value. In continuation, Mo here says, I just want to say, why did Hoyer get extended? Because he's a good president of baseball operations for the Cubs, or because Ricketts likes him because he doesn't spend and doesn't go over his budget? He kind of followed it up saying, year after year, as always, the Cubs are all in, going to make trades and moves. They do nothing. Harper, Verlander, Soto, Ohtani, Yamamoto, Sasaki, now pitching. Every damn year, it's the same thing. And then break even, Tom. Good evening, fellas. Are we really surprised? Jed sucks Tom, Carter sucks Jed, and the fans get shit on. There's a lot of kind of missed feelings. Scott saying he really wanted Duran. Phillies gave up the number 56 and 91 overall prospects. That would have been the equivalent for the Cubs of Rojas and Wiggins, 57 and 90. You know, I think I share in a lot of those thoughts. Darren also says here, exactly spot on, Rich and Nick. Deadline fail. This is this thinking we'd be better off to have kept Belly and the prospects that they gave up.
Yeah.
You know, I share in the frustration because, and maybe this is the part that I that's kind of irking me the most is the empty words again from Jed and
oh my God, it was so predictable.
Yeah,
everything that he said.
The empty thoughts is what bothers me because we heard from him prior to the deadline. He said if the value's there, we'll make a move. Sure, that makes sense. So you're telling me that Michael Soroka's value is 2 mid-top 30 prospects, but yet 2 or 3 of your top guys for a controllable starter isn't? Especially some really damn good ones on top of that too. And again, maybe the price wasn't there. But you couldn't have pivoted to a Zach Gallen who wasn't moved today as a rental option, or you know, in the comments here, and I felt this way. We kind of talked a little bit about it as we were getting fired up here. So it's from Charles. He said, "Good evening. Who do you think was most realistic quality starter the Cubs missed down on? Bieber, Kelly, Hauser. I think they missed on Hauser.
It's 100% Hauser because Chris Getz and Jed Hoyer both told the media in the last few hours that they had a deal in place up until 30 minutes before the trade deadline and it fell apart. Why did it fall apart?
Right. What happened? Like who got unrealistic or like who got cold feet? That's really to me what it is because I think Hauser, truthfully, would have been fine for this team. And that was one of our banners here tonight. I would have been fine with Adrian Hauser. Would have been fine. He's been great. But it's still a tangible move to improve your starting pitching. A tangible move to advance that group forward. Because now, I don't know about you. I was going to leave this for later, but we're just going to. What's the rotation plan? Because now I sit here and I look at it. Are you banking on Javier Assad to come back as a starter and be able to give you length? I know Tyone's going to come back at some point, but he's been plagued by the home run ball more than those poor rats in England in the 1700s were. And you're going to tell me that going into a playoff series right now, it's Shota, Boyd, Tyone, and Cade Horton? That doesn't give me any level of fucking comfort.
No.
None whatsoever. Again, you know what would have given me comfort? Hauser as the third option. And then I don't care who you throw as the 4. Let it be Javier Assad, piggybacked by Jordan Wicks, piggybacked by Cade Horton. At that point, I don't give a fuck. But you would have had that at least third guy that you have enough confidence in right now. And I just don't think they have it. I don't want to see Colin Ray necessarily in a playoff series right now. Not that he's been bad, but he hasn't been good, great either.
No,
He's
Yeah.
been fine. Fine gets you through the regular season. Fine does not get you through the playoffs.
Yeah. Colin Ray should be like your Jason Hamill of the team who
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
make the playoff roster, ideally.
Exactly.
I think the other part that pisses me off a little bit is like, okay, in the offseason, they jettisoned Cody Bellinger in what was basically just a salary dump, right? They didn't reinvest that money. They weren't in on any of the top starting pitchers last offseason, like Max Fried and Corbin Burns. So they weren't willing to pay money to go get a high-end starting pitcher. And then we were told, okay, well, they're going to have a lot of payroll flexibility for in-season additions at the trade deadline. And then they didn't go get a high-end starting pitcher at the trade deadline. So if we're not paying money for starting pitching and we're not trading prospect capital for top-line starting pitching, are we just praying that Cade Horton turns into 2015 Jake Arrieta? Like, is all of this just based on prayers? Like, what the fuck are we doing? We're just we're hoping that Matthew Boyd's arm doesn't fall off when we get to October because he hasn't pitched more than 100 innings in 6 years. We're hoping that Shota continues to pitch like an ace into October when he's never done that before. It's a rotation built on like foam. It's bad. It's not gonna fucking work.
No. And it's already been shaky, and you already see it, like, let alone playoffs. You're going to fight for the division now, and you already see that it's kind of shaky now. And like Rich mentioned, you have burnout. You have guys that have been pitching more than what they're used to pitching. You have guys that have to take over because guys can't pitch as much. So you don't know what's going to happen. And to your point, Ron, I would have been fine with Adrian Hauser as the third guy. I would have been happy with that. Go get someone of a top level caliber. I mean, he's not the guy that we were hoping that he'd get, but you would have had to have done something, and they did nothing. And
Still an improvement to the rotation.
It's a big improvement based off of what we've had, and plus we're getting the Colin Ray that like we never thought we were going to get in the first place. He hasn't been great, but he's been good. But we never even thought that he would be in this rotation. So we've gotten lucky. Basically, it's all been gravy to this point with this rotation. And Jed got so lucky up to this point that you would have thought that he, in his mind, would have gone, I've gotten lucky to this point, but I can already see the wheels are kind of coming off here. I need to do something. And he did nothing. And this is the part of the issue for me with Jed, is he gets way too cute. Like, at some point, you just have to go out there and, like Joey said, overpay, do something. Just go do something, especially in a year that you go and you give away Cam Smith for Kyle Tucker for a year of him. And now chances are you're not going to have him next year. So this is the guy in the lineup that's now made everyone better. This is the bat that's changed this offense, and you don't put all your chips in. And it's infuriating. And I don't understand it. I was puzzled the whole day watching this going, is he really not? Is he really not going to do something big? Is he not going to go for – I thought maybe Merrill Kelly, like anything, but no. And it's just shocking. It really is because of the position that you're in. And even that Brewers series should have been a big sign to Jed, like a big red flashing siren should be going off in his head going, there needs to be some more power, some more oomph to this team. And yeah, arguably you did get some holes filled and you did get better, but look at the other teams at the deadline, what they did compared to you, and that's who you're going to be going against in the playoffs. So what you're just rolling the dice at this point if you even get in.
Like you were saying, this team's had so much gravy. You can only pour so much gravy until you run out and the turkey gets dry, right? That's just the way it is. And that's kind of what this felt like. It feels like one or two bad things happen in the second half and the infrastructure can come crumbling down. And you guys are right. Like there was no risk. You took a fake risk to cut payroll, right? Because Kyle Tucker was cheap this year because he was an arbitration player. So you go trade for him in the offseason for 1 year of him, and then you're not going to potentially pay him, right? Joey said this a little bit earlier. The people will point to Casey's sign of Tucker not resigning. He says, who knows? It 100% is. I said this months ago.
Yeah.
I said, what happens to Owen Casey at the deadline will be incredibly telling of what they think they can do for Kyle Tucker. And here's the thing, gentlemen, and there's so many comments. Shout out to everybody in the comment section. Like, I'm almost not even able to keep up with them right now to go along with our discussion. But think about this, and this is what gets me. You are, what, less than 10 days removed of Bryce Harper telling Rob Manfred to get the fuck out of their clubhouse. Kind of the first shot of the war between the Players Association and the owners that's coming in less than 2 years. This is the time to get aggressive. We might not have baseball in 2027, and who the fuck knows what 28 and beyond looks like. Frankly, it's going to get ugly. There's going to be a lot of money lost, and baseball may never be the same sport ever again. This was the time you could get a controllable starter for this year and next year and be competitive. And even if you didn't keep Tucker around, you still had it. Could you imagine how nasty the starting rotation could be next year? You hope that PCA repeats. You hope that maybe Owen Casey graduates and is an impactful piece. Maybe we do see more of Moises Ballesteros as another bat in the lineup. Maybe we see, the continuation of Seiya Suzuki being good. Like, you could still be a very good team in 26 again if you went out and were thinking more than just like the now. And they're like, well, we can't get rid of these guys. Why? So you can let them play when baseball resumes in 2029? Like, what is happening? Why aren't you trying to win another World Series? That's where I really start to scratch. It starts to itch my ass, because why is there no you can tell the teams that are operating in that manner. The Phillies are operating that way. I'd argue the Seattle Mariners are operating that way. You want to talk about a team that went out and fixed everything? Yeah, the Padres. You want to talk about the team that went out and did exactly what they needed to improve? A team that also had a guy that's kind of a surprise MVP candidate in Cal Raleigh, and they have a great strength in their pitching rotation, but they never had the bats. You go out and get both Josh Naylor and Eugenio Suarez. Yeah. Yep. That's a team that tells me they want to win. Oh, and your best player in J-Rod is starting to get hot finally, too. They're trying to keep up with the Astros. The Astros were ballsy and making a bunch of moves. These teams are all operating like they want to win in 2025 or 2026. The Cubs aren't. The Cubs are operating like they want to punt because they think there's going to be a salary cap and they're going to need cheap players in a couple of years in order to fulfill that. So they don't want to trade any prospects. Deal with that when the time comes. Go try to win something now. And you're going to get the bullshit out of Jed. Well, we can't plan for injuries. Yes, you can. It's called having more fucking depth. You didn't have it. Yes, have they been just destroyed by pitching injuries this year? 100%. And you've gotten a little lucky. But you're operating like a small market team, and I'm kind of over it. Like, I'm not going to lie to you, gentlemen. There is a glowing beam of ball of light in my body, and it's my soul, it's love for the Cubs. And with every deadline, a little bit of it gets chipped away to the point where it's only going to be about this big, and it's going to burn out. And I think a lot of fans are going to get to that point too, because you can't ride the coattails of something that happened 10 years ago. That's over. We're not waiting 100 fucking more years for another goddamn championship before we say, you know what? Fuck you guys. And you know what? I'm going to pull out the big guns. You think Ryan Sandberg would have been happy about this fucking deadline?
No.
The guy that largely helped put the Cubs on the map when that franchise was dog shit for decades. And this is how you honor him this weekend, by not improving your ball club and shrugging your shoulders and saying, well, it might work. Garbage.
I think another part of this is, like, the Cubs used to make an aggressive move like this when Theo was in charge, right? Like, I think of 2017 when they traded their best pitching prospect and their best hitting prospect for Jose Quintana. Granted, that move ended up not working out, but you respected the move in the moment that they made it because they needed help in their starting rotation. And up until that point, Jose Quintana was one of the most reliable starting pitchers in the league. And now when it came time to go and make a big trade like that for a starting pitcher, you got cold feet because you had to give up a little bit more than you did last time because the pitching market was too expensive this time. You have a deep farm system. You should be willing to part with guys like Owen Casey and Jackson Wiggins and Moises Ballesteros if it means you have a guy you can start in game 2 of a playoff series. I think where it came down to is, we were kind of touching on this earlier, they did not want to part with Owen Casey because they know damn well they're not re-signing Kyle Tucker. And Jed Hoyer lied through his teeth earlier when he was talking on Marquee, when he said there is a pathway to have Owen Casey and Kyle Tucker both on this team in the future. And you know what that pathway is if Kyle Tucker agrees to like a $200 million deal, sweetheart deal with the Cubs, which you know that they are like hoping and praying that he wants that, right? There's no chance in hell that's going to happen. So they want Owen Casey to cover their asses in right field for the next however many years. And if he ends up sucking, this is going to look even worse because he's unproven. I don't think he's even made his major league debut yet. There's no telling if he's going to be good or not. Like, hopefully he hits 30 home runs next year, but if he doesn't, what the fuck? Like, I don't get it. I don't get the prospect clutching right now. I think it just comes down to them honestly being cheap and Jed not having any balls.
Yep. And T from the 203, Matt Mervis was this hyped up prospect, and he's done nothing because prospects are prospects until they're no longer prospects.
Brendan Davis, Braylon Marquez. How many prospects have been at the top of the system and just fizzled out? Like, you have no
Brett
idea.
Jackson, if Josh Vitters, we can go back decades.
If you traded 5 prospects to the Twins for Joe Ryan, I bet you 3 of them would probably be out of baseball within the next few years. Like, you don't know. Every trade is a gamble, but you got to fucking take a swing at some point.
Yeah, especially when you're in a win now window. I mean, it's a rare thing to be in a win now window rather than have the prospect work out in your favor. You're more likely to do better if you put all your chips in a win now window, which is exactly what you're in. You're in the win now stage, and you kind of just took a step backwards at the worst possible time. And now what? This is just going to be, you're just going to bet that everything works out for the rest of the year. I mean, that's what they've done here, is that they're just taking a really big bet that everything's going to work out.
Yeah, and like everybody's listing in the comments, Michael Hoffpower, Felix Payne Jr., like there is more on record of prospects not working out in most organizations than ones that do. And you know what? It almost pains me that the Cubs won the World Series the way they did in 2016 because that core was all homegrown guys for the most part. You got lucky. And you can't even say that they were necessarily homegrowns, right? Who are the actual guys that they drafted and developed? Chris Bryant, Kyle Schwarber. That's about it. Addison Russell came in the trade from the A's. Javier Baez was a homegrown, but like you traded for Rizzo, right? All these other guys you had to either trade or sign for. You got lucky.
None of the rotation was homegrown.
No, none of it. So why is Jed all of a sudden this, like you said, guys said, this prospect horde where, you know, you want to hang on from all these guys? Sure, you can go out and acquire strategic prospects when it works. Like Michael Busch was a great example of that. But right now with these guys that are still super young, who maybe haven't made their debuts, like Jackson Wiggins, if you have a great career, good for you.
Yeah, 6 months ago, nobody even knew who Jackson Wiggins was.
Right. Unless you were like really dialed into this organization.
For sure.
Had no idea.
He's a very newly minted top pitching prospect. And that's mostly because Brandon Birdsell got hurt this year.
And Cade Horton graduated to the majors.
Right.
That's the only reason. Like, not to say that he's not a good prospect, but like Scott brought it up earlier, right? If you kind of mirror the value to what the Phillies gave up for Duran, which I want. Like, I asked myself, like, if you give up that plus one more player, does that get it done for Ryan? Because if that's the case, I would have loved Joe Ryan.
Yeah, I would have loved Joe Ryan.
Joe Ryan or Cabrera or Mackenzie Gore. And if not, a Zach Gallen or an Adrian Hauser, at the very least, you could have gotten a rental.
Yes.
Yep.
And like, yeah, the rental market wasn't ideal, but you still paid to the rental market price for all these other trades. Actually, what the one was kind of, in my opinion, a steal was the Pirates trade for Rodgers. To me, that was the best deal they made. If you're talking what they actually gave up, you gave up your number, what was it, 14 and 13 prospects for Soroka, and then you give up 17 for Kittredge. And then you go give up number 8 and another guy for Castro, but you're not willing to give up like number 5, number 1 or 3, and number 7, hypothetically speaking.
If that rumor of them not willing to part with Ballesteros held up a deal is true, that is outrageous because Ballesteros can't play anywhere except DH. He can't play first base. He's only 5'8". Oh, yeah, there we go. Sorry, jumped the gun on the next segment.
No,
but
you're good.
He can't play catcher either. Otherwise, he would have been the backup to Carson Kelly after Miguel Amaya got hurt instead of Reese McGuire.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a one-tool player, basically, and is unproven as well, except for the double that he hit on Wednesday. Why is he so untouchable to you? Why are you so unwilling to move him? Because you're penciling him at DH for the next 6 years? You're telling me that's the plan? Come on. Like that, you have to be willing to trade some of these guys. It's just the cost of doing business. It's the cost of winning championships.
Yeah. And Break Even Tom says, to be fair, Wiggins top pick. He was a second rounder, and honestly, the only pitching prospect of the Cubs organization. They draft like 12 pitchers a year.
Yeah.
Just none of them are catching the attention. But Gallagher was a pitching prospect. He was the number 8 guy in the organization.
Cade Horton graduated. First full season was this year, though.
Right.
And he did not pitch well last year.
No. But then Brandon Birdsell was hurt. Otherwise, he's been up there. They have plenty of other pitching prospects. Like Wiggins is garnishing attention. Yeah, you're gonna get, like you said, Rich. You got to play ball. And like Nick, I don't know about you. I mean, you had a depart. Speaking of teams in the Sunshine State, like the Rays had a nice deadline. Griffin Jacks and Adrian Hauser, and you really only parted ways with like Taj Bradley and Curtis Mead. That's a good deadline for them. If that's the equivalent of what the Cubs had to do here to do that kind of deal and deadline, I would have been okay with it.
Yeah,
and it doesn't set you back, 5-10 years.
That's what pisses me off. Like if you study the other trades, you do a little bit of comparison to what we would have given up. It's not crazy to think that we could have done that or even done a little bit more to get them to win that move. And it's like, like you said, I don't understand why he's prospect talking. I don't know why there's any untouchables when you're at this point. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know if it's Ricketts where he's saying like, well, if you have a prospect that grows into this great thing, then, we don't need to do this big contract for this big guy. We don't have to spend money. This is all about saving money, right? Like, where is it that there was this breakdown in the deadline? Because there was certainly a breakdown. Why did he get an extension? Was there more behind the extension? What was said to him before this actually happened? Like, did Ricketts talk to him about how he was going to operate during this deadline? Because he like pussyfooted more than what he normally does. He was very too cute. Like it's a puzzling one for me, honestly, even as much as a lot of times, as a Cubs fan, you're used to disappointment. You're used to these types of deadlines. This one really puzzled me. I had really expected a lot more. And even like you said, Rich, just go get a rental guy. If you've lost the deadline, if you're here today and you lost out on these big guys and you needed to do something, why not go just get a rental? Just go get Zach Gallen. Like, he's right there for the taking. Just do it. Because we're probably still going to bitch and moan tonight, but it's not going to be this burn it down type of show where we're going, what the hell happened? Because now it leads us to believe that they really don't believe in this team. And what do the guys think in that fucking clubhouse? What are they thinking about? Like, they're sitting at home watching this. They know the Cubs fans' reaction. They know everything, and they're going, yeah, why didn't we put all of our chips in? They see the other teams doing what they did. It's upsetting that they act like a small market team while Tom still wants everything else. He wants the city around Wrigley. He wants the beer bats. He wants the $15 beers, the whatever the hell it is, marquee network. But then you act like you're a small market team. It is so infuriating. And it's partly why I have a hard time even giving them my money for a long time. And it's moments like today that make you just so frustrated and want to boycott giving any of your own money to them, because why they act like they don't respect us. So
there's so many memes that I can use to compare the Cubs and the White Sox, like the HR meme, where it's like, I'm going to boycott the team, and it's like the Cubs, and it's and then I'm going to boycott the team, and it's like HR, and it's the White Sox. But Nick, you brought up an excellent point that triggered something in my brain, and that is the whole Untouchables thing. Jed sat there in front of the media like 2 weeks ago and said, no, nobody's untouchable.
Apparently there is.
Only to turn around and lie to our fucking faces, because apparently Mo Baller's untouchable. And I don't understand this double standard nonsense. Don't lie to me. Don't piss on my face and tell me it's raining. All right? Just give it to me straight. Hey, we like a couple of our prospects, and unless something is like super duper, like, yeah, we should totally do that, then like we're not going to move them. Okay. At least I would have been a little bit like, all right, fine. I'm not going to be optimistic about this deadline then, and walk out of it on the other side and be like, all right, they said what they were going to do and they did it. No, everything with this team is the opposite of what you think. You know, I saw a little bit earlier in the comments section, somebody was like, well, I'm not trusting reporters anymore that leak the Cubs to anybody, because it's all bullshit. It's always been bullshit. Even Jed said it's bullshit. He said it at CubsCon like 2 years ago. He was like, it's really interesting that people get upset when we're linked to these guys supposedly, and we don't do anything. We haven't even talked to any of these guys. They just use the Cubs name just for leverage. It's all GM nonsense that's made up. The Cubs aren't actually linked to anybody. They don't operate like that. The quieter it is, the more Jed's doing. And that was the issue. It was so loud that it was deafening. And ultimately, the silence is what should have been deafening.
Yeah. They were linked to literally every single player that was rumored to be on the block in the last,
Yeah, literally.
I think another outrageous part of this is, people brought up the point that the Brewers didn't do much either. But the difference is the Brewers already have an elite starting rotation. And if you're going into a playoff series, I like the Brewers rotation a lot more than I like the Cubs rotation. And that matters a lot if they're able to prevent runs from scoring using their starting pitching. Because the Brewers they don't have as good of an offense as the Cubs do. But they can score runs, and they're an annoying lineup. They can grind out at bats and do enough to like kill you by 1,000 cuts and take the extra 90. And they also just have dumb luck. I was kind of mentioning that in the show on Tuesday. They get a lot of balls that just like shoot past a diving defender like in the exact right spot, and they just have stupid luck. You know what I mean? And I don't like the matchups. I don't like, Freddie Peralta versus Shota, and then you go Matthew Boyd versus Brandon Woodruff. Like that's not good, dude. That's bad.
And then you got to see Mizorowski against whoever you trot out there as your third. Here's
Tyone if he's healthy.
Yeah, here's the thing too. If you have a healthy Justin Steele, it looks a lot different. Because then you can be like, well, we got Soroka. Maybe he's going to start. Maybe he's not. But look, we upgraded the bullpen and we got a utility guy. Yeah, I think everybody feels a lot better. Because if you're getting this type of season from Matthew Boyd and like Cade Horton's your 4 and Tyone's your 5, you feel okay about that because you also have Ray, you also have Assad that can give you length. And like going into a playoff series, you would feel okay about that. But after your top 2 starters, there's nothing to feel necessarily like super confident in.
Yeah.
And to your point, the Brewers did that. And even the Brewers, they made a move and all they gave up was a player to be named later or cash for Shelby Miller, who's been really good this year for Arizona. And so they would take the contract of Jordan Montgomery. And you know what's going to fucking happen? Montgomery's going to somehow help them because that's just the Brewers and what they fucking do.
For sure.
And it's going to drive us all nuts. And they're going to look like geniuses. They gave up literally nothing at the deadline and got 2 guys.
And they got backup catcher too.
Yes. They got Jensen from Tampa.
And then they traded Nestor Cortez
for a bag of balls.
Yeah, for some guy that you've never heard of and you never will hear of him, but he's going to come up and produce.
He becomes killer.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's just what they do.
Ugh.
I mean, the only silver lining here to me is like the bullpen additions. The bullpen looks better, right?
Oh yeah.
Brian Presley is finally off the team, which is great. Andrew Kittredge is your new Ryan Presley, which is an upgrade for sure. Rogers will probably be your new Drew Pomerantz because it looks like Drew Pomerantz is running out of gas really fast. Mm-hmm. He's getting like worse and worse by the outing. So you needed an upgrade there. And Soroka is just a straight up bullpen arm to me. Like he's a long reliever. His numbers drop off a cliff after the 4th and 5th inning of his outings. Yeah, I don't see him pitching out of the rotation, and he's not because Ben Brown is starting this weekend. So they're rolling with Ben Brown in the rotation for now.
Yeah,
still
unbelievable.
It's crazy. It's unbelievable.
It makes no sense whatsoever. It really doesn't make any sense.
And God forbid Tyone or Assad have a setback in their comebacks. Like it's fucked. It's really not.
What if they aren't as good as they were before too, which is very plausible as well. That's like
Assad hasn't pitched in a big league game in a long time.
No, so you're banking on that?
Yeah.
And even if you do get Tyone back to full strength, he's giving up the home run ball. Why wouldn't you go and get someone else? I don't get it.
There's a lot not to get. Gentlemen, I think we can sit here and rack our brains all night long. I'm personally running out of steam because it's mentally draining. Our comment section's been fucking electric. Shout out to you guys. Like to the point where I physically can't keep up.
There's 130 comments.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Shouts out to every single one of you guys because you guys are incredible. But I want to give you guys each the floor. Final thoughts to wrap this up. We do have baseball to look ahead to if you want to distract yourself from whatever the fuck happened today. Starting on Friday that we'll get into here. The floor is yours, guys. Final thoughts.
Go ahead, Nick.
I'm speechless. I have no final thoughts because I stupidly had a lot of hope for this deadline. Wrote a few articles about it. Was really getting into the excitement, the names, the possibilities. I really thought, like, if you can put all of your chips in, that you really do have a shot at the World Series. And now I'm really questioning if they can even scrap together enough to win the division. So it's a sad day, but we'll have to just move on. Like you said, we got more baseball. Anything can happen. Nothing more to say.
I do. So like I said, I like the bullpen additions. You know, it would have been way better if we got a starter, but like you did need bullpen upgrades and you did that. You needed a bench bat and you got Willie Castro, who can play all over the field besides first and catcher, which is great. So that means John Birdie's probably out of a job because all he's doing right now is pitching in garbage time anyway. So he doesn't deserve to be on the roster. And Castro crushes left-handed pitching. So that's a good addition to me. The other thing I wanted to say is I saw this video of Ken Rosenthal before we started, and he was talking about the Red Sox, but I think this applies to the Cubs too, because the Red Sox were expected to make a big move and they didn't. And he was talking about how they're like relying on young players moving forward and clutching prospects and not wanting to move them. And he basically was like, you know who else tried to do that is the Baltimore Orioles, and look at all the young players that they tried to rely on this year, and now they suck. You never know when you're going to get another opportunity to be this good. Like all of a sudden the Cubs could be bad next year. So the fact that they didn't push the chips in this year and trade for a frontline starting pitcher it's atrocious. It is garbage.
That was one of the things that I loved about Theo and his philosophy. And even Jed kind of shares in that philosophy a little bit. Of like every year is a new year. Like there is no guarantee of the next. Baseball maybe more so than any other sport, because you can build like a good core in other sports and be competitive for a number of years. Baseball, that's a lot harder.
Yeah.
Genuinely a lot harder. And it's disappointing. It genuinely is disappointing.
The difference is Theo at times had the gung-ho attitude to just throw the analytics and the assessments out the window and say,
fuck it.
Fuck it. I want this guy, and I'm gonna add him to my team.
Yeah.
Jed does not have that dog in him, dude.
No.
Like I don't know. I keep swindling myself into thinking that he does, but he just doesn't.
He does not. No.
And yeah, T's right. I know Jim Hendry made moves too, but that's not what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about the guy that was supposed to literally rub off on Jed because they shared the same fucking front office for how many years, right? Like it's brutal. I'm probably gonna stew over it a little bit more, and I think once I can speak more succinctly and concisely, maybe I'll put some pen to paper about it. But T says here, boycott the weekend. That's his final thought. I'll tell you what, my final thought is, okay, here we go. Now it's the stretch run, right? Now it's the stretch run. Joey said it here a little bit ago. It just feels like they're comfortable making the playoffs or squeezing in as a wild card, which is not even guaranteed. Who knows? We'll wait and see what happens. Gentlemen, 3 with the Baltimore Orioles this weekend. And you're going to be distracted by the bad deadline because on Saturday they're going to honor Ryan Sandberg. They're going to wear the blue jerseys with just the 23s. Nothing else on them. I hope they're pullovers and just have the Cubs logo on them. If they're button-up blues, I'm going to be a little pissed because that's not proper and they're not doing it true justice, neither here nor there. Baltimore Orioles, really bad baseball team, comes to Wrigley Field for a 3-game set starting on Friday. The rotation for the weekend is Cade Horton, Matthew Boyd, and Colin Ray on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, respectively. What say you guys? Did the Cubs win a series? And, well, you can be brutally honest at this point. Do you really give a fuck?
I do give a fuck, unfortunately, which is why my mental health is deteriorating and there's years coming off my life and gray hairs are starting to come out of my nose. But I do think they take this series. If they don't, I'm going to be really pissed off because the Orioles are not that good this year. But we are facing their best pitcher, Taylor Rogers. God, there's so many fucking Rogerses. Trevor Rogers.
That guy.
That dude is good this year from out of nowhere. So I don't know. Maybe not. Just don't get shelled, Ben Brown. That's all I have to say.
For real. Nick?
Yeah, well, I care about it as well, unfortunately. And the thing is you need a momentum shift after a bad Brewers series, a bad deadline. You need something to shift this momentum if you're going to compete with what you got, if you will. It'd be really nice to just have some blowouts, have some fun. honor Ryan Sandberg the way you should by just blowing him out on Saturday. Just try to shift things for the fans, shift things for your own sake. Just win, really. That's really all you can do at this point is just win because you didn't win the deadline, that's for sure.
Odds Nico Horner hits a home run on Saturday.
Yeah. I was going to say, I expect some weird, crazy shit on Saturday.
Yeah.
Like I almost want to like go really off the wall and be like Matthew Boyd's throwing a no-hitter on Saturday. Like something crazy.
That'd be cool. Yeah,
it's Brown on Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Brown on Saturday?
Yeah.
Oh, they changed that then because
Ben Brown throws a perfect game.
Could you imagine? Then Bruce Levine was lying to us because he said Boyd was throwing on Saturday.
No, the crazy thing would be if Ben Brown has a quality start.
I like Darren's thought here. He thinks number 23 should be put on the second base bag at Wrigley for the remainder of the season. I think that would be pretty cool. And he confirmed my worst fears a little bit earlier. It is the button-up Blues. Fucking stupid. That's
damn
just,
it. Poverty
just
franchise.
That's just not good. It's just not good. That makes me mad.
Not good.
That's not the proper way. It's not the proper way. They needed to be blue pullovers, or it's not right. And that is what it is. But gentlemen, we'll call it a night here. I think everybody needs to stew on this one a little bit. 3 with the Baltimore Orioles on the horizon. We will be back come Sunday to recap that series. Hopefully it's a series win, and hopefully we're all in better spirits. But we will quickly find out how everybody's feeling once we get back. Before we get out of here, as always, want to remind people, Cubs on Tap, 1 or 2 shows here. Check out our friends over at the Dingers podcast, as our buddy Maxwell was looking for earlier. They are live on Monday nights. We are live Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. Follow us at Cubbies on Tap. You can see all 3 of our handles here in our descriptions. And if you listen along in podcast form, or if you'd like to go listen along and find us on podcast form, subscribe. Give us a like. We appreciate that too. You can head over there and find everybody else's handles as well. Of course, we are at Cubbies on Tap on the socials, and it's not just us. Bears on Tap, Bulls on Tap, and Four Feathers podcast. The latter 2 are a little bit dormant right now, kind of waiting for September to come around for some preseason and training camp. But it's Bears training camp. I was just there myself actually yesterday, and it was a good time. Got to see the big boys out in action. Football's right around the corner. Check out our good stuff over at Bears on Tap. And of course, Cubs fans, you got friends that like the South Siders. So we do. They're in a little bit of a different scenario than we are right now. Neither here nor there. Send your friends to our friends. Let them all be friends over at Sox on Tap. Once again, ontapsportsnet.com, at ontapsportsnet on the socials. The OnTap Sports Network. Go and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Big shout out again to our comment section. You guys were fucking awesome. There are very few nights that I lose track of the comment section, and this was one of them. So bravo to you guys. That's a huge credit. We appreciate you guys chiming in and chiming along throughout the course of the show. From myself, Mr. Rich Everwine, Mr. Nick Hudson. Boys, what do you say we get out here the only way to know how Cubs on Tap?
Fuck the Curtains.
Fuck the Jed.
I was gonna say FTJ. I was really gonna sneak that one in there. Little FTC as well, and I guess let's go Cubbies.